right now I'm in the middle of minimalism, and my little aha moment, or takeaway, was that all the notes that I've written over the years, or even in the past few weeks, all the research I've done, and like notes I've taken of lectures and videos and books and snippets on Instagram and YouTube, all of that is not necessary to keep. And I know a lot of that is influenced by the fact that I'm trying to identify a bunch of things that I can get rid of in my life. But I know I have a whole lot of notes and just stuff I've written down over time that is not necessarily being utilized in any way. But I keep these with this like intent that I'm going to read it every day, or that I'm going to go back to it when I'm in that like field of progression. Like if it's a dance related thing, I think that I will go back and look in my binder for that specific page when I'm working on dance related things, but oftentimes I don't. And that's the case for almost every piece of thing that I've written, with the exception of a few specific things, which are the things that do not apply to this. This basically applies to any notes that I've taken regarding like lectures or courses or video content. And the aha moment was that those notes, me taking those notes, was akin to looking through a spyglass. But they are not the sails that are going to propel me forward. And by that I mean, when I'm watching a piece of content and taking notes, that's me sort of processing the experience, processing the information that I'm receiving for my mind and my physiology in that moment. But that specific thing that I write on those notes is not the specific thing that is actually going to move me forward. The thing that's going to move me forward is the actual action that I'm taking on those things, the actual ideas that I'm coming up as a result of those notes. And yes, it's helpful to be able to write down those notes, but I don't necessarily always need to keep those notes in order to move forward. I don't physically need those pieces of paper in order for me to understand what I need to do. Once I consume that content and write it and look through the spyglass, I've seen the direction to go. I've gotten the idea. I've received ideas as a result of going through that process, but I don't need to keep looking through the spyglass to know where to go. Once I know where to go, I can orient myself in that direction and start going that way. And that applies for little and big things. And moving forward, I can still take notes. I'm not saying that I'm not going to take notes. So I can still take notes on videos I'm watching. I can still take notes on books I'm reading, content I'm consuming from Facebook and YouTube, and just interviews, anything like that. But it's important for me to recognize that I should only keep those notes for as long as they're useful. Once I have the general idea of what I need to do next, what I'm going to implement next, then I need to push those notes away. And my thing right now is I'm going through all my notes basically, deciding, is this super important for me right now? Is this relevant? Am I going to actually use it right now? And if I don't use it, or if it's not relevant, then it needs to go away. And I'm not quite at the point where I can just shred them or recycle them or anything like that. I think they're just going to go in like a filing cabinet, basically, of just past research or past workshops or past experiences, past looking through the spyglass moments, and putting those away and knowing that I can access them if I need to. Like, for maybe right now I'm going through a lot of Jordan Peterson content because of his new book and me going through the future authoring program and self-authoring suite in general. So it might be helpful for me to keep some of that information on hand, but once I'm no longer processing my experience and growing myself through that information or that knowledge, then that research, those notes, can go away for a moment until I need them again or until I never need them again. And it's not really any that different than keeping it on my shelf or in my binder, but just the fact that they're on my shelf or on my binder sort of creates a higher intensity of importance for those things when I'm not actually using them. So it's taking up like mental bandwidth, and I want to free up as much bandwidth as possible for the projects and the things I want to implement in myself, like mentally or physically, free up as much bandwidth as possible for those things. So basically it takes, like if I have 100 pieces of paper on my shelf, and those are all notes or projects or brainstorming things or things I need to work on. If I have 100 of those, my attention is going to be split in different amounts for each of those. But if I can take away 70 to 80% of that, which is what a lot of those notes are, because that's how much I've saved thinking is important for me in my experience in this moment. If I take away the 80% that I'm not actually utilizing, not actually reviewing, and put it somewhere else where I'm not actively using as a source of this is important, if I can set those aside, it's going to free up the 20 remaining pages on my shelf so that my attention becomes more focused on those. And I know that doing that, even though it's such a small change, doing that's going to help me, I think, free up this sort of anxiety sort of feeling in myself when I'm thinking about things I want to get done or things I need to integrate within my mindset or anything like that. And the more I can free up stuff like that and just focus on the highest tier projects or mindsets is going to make me a lot more effective at actually executing on those and actually implementing those on a consistent basis. So the Spyglass is me taking notes and keeping those notes, thinking that they are the map, when in reality, once I've looked through the Spyglass, that information is no longer useful. The only way I'm going to get to my destination that I've seen through the Spyglass is by using the sails to push me forward. And the sails is taking the action, calling the person, doing the meditation, writing the idea down, taking any sort of next step forward, actually taking the action instead of just brainstorming and just thinking about it and not actually moving forward. So it's becoming more aware of what things are most important or most relevant for my situation right now. That information that I set aside and archive might be useful at a later date, but right now it's not. And I have a habit that I'm trying to correct of constantly looking through the Spyglass and thinking that's subconsciously thinking that's what's going to get me forward. The information that I'm writing down is me looking through the Spyglass at an island that's far away that I'm trying to get to, and thinking that if I keep looking through my Spyglass, if I keep writing my notes, if I keep looking at my notes, I'm going to get closer to that Spyglass. When in reality, I have to put the Spyglass down, I have to put my notes aside, I have my heading, I just have to drop my sails, and let the wind of my actions carry me forward to that island. So, I'm drastically reducing the amount of stuff I'm consuming, and the amount of stuff I'm keeping for myself as I need to know this sort of research or notes. Reducing that and having less of that and more focus on the actual notes or projects or to-do lists that are relevant for me taking action and moving forward in my life. And I'm doing that both physically and digitally. Like I just went through and probably cleared out a few hundred bookmarks. I still have a lot more to go, but I'm making progress and I'm really happy about that. And that is a spider. So I'm doing that both physically and digitally, so going through bookmarks and just allowing myself to get rid of as much stuff that isn't relevant anymore. I can still go back and look at those or reclaim some of those notes, especially the physical ones, but just getting better about recognizing what things are me looking through the Spyglass and feeling like I have to keep looking through the Spyglass, and what things are going to actually fill my sails and actually move me forward in my life. And most of the things I'm saving in my notes, while useful at one point, is not useful in my current experience right now, so I need to not just do that and not have those. I'm repeating myself at this point, so I'm gonna go.